When I first married Emily, I knew winning over her family would be a challenge. But I didn't expect her father, Richard, to openly despise me. From the very first dinner we shared, he made it clear I wasn't good enough for his daughter. I was a small business owner back then, running a humble auto repair shop with 2 employees. I wasn't flashy, I didn't wear expensive suits, and I sure didn't drive a fancy car. Emily could have done better, he said that night, not even bothering to lower his voice. She needed someone who could provide stability, not whatever this is. He waved at me like I was some failed science experiment. Emily tried to defend me, but his words stuck like barbed wire in my chest. Over the next 2 years, it only got worse. Every family gathering became a trial. Richard would throw subtle insults at me, mocking my job, my income, even my ambitions. Still fixing cars, huh? You should really think about getting a real career before you start a family. I smiled politely, but deep down, I was burning. Then came the day that lit the fuse. Emily and I had been saving every spare penny to buy a small starter home. I was proud of how disciplined we were being, skipping vacations, working overtime, even selling my old motorcycle. When we finally got approved for the mortgage, Emily was ecstatic. She called her parents to share the news, and we invited them over to celebrate. Instead of congratulations, Richard laughed. That's adorable. A little house in the suburbs. Emily, sweetheart, you deserve more than a man who's scraping by just to buy you a box with a roof. He'll keep you small. You'll never grow with someone like him. I saw Emily's face fall, and that was it. I'd had enough. For years, I kept quiet to keep the peace, but Richard had just crossed the line. That night, I made myself a promise. I was going to prove him wrong. Not with words, but with results so undeniable that even he would have to swallow his pride. What happened over the next 12 months would change everything. For me, for Emily, and for Richard. The very next morning, I sat at my desk in the garage and stared at the greasy calendar on the wall. Richard's words were still ringing in my ears, but instead of breaking me, they fueled me. I had 2 choices. Keep living small, or take a risk big enough to silence him forever. I started sketching out a plan. For years, I dreamed of expanding the shop into a full-fledged auto service center. One that could handle everything from repairs to custom builds. I'd always told myself it wasn't the right time, but Richard had just given me all the motivation I needed. For months, I worked like a man possessed. I took on every job I could find, from engine rebuilds to weekend roadside assistance. I hired 2 new mechanics and negotiated with suppliers to cut my costs. At night, when Emily went to bed, I stayed up researching small business loans, new equipment, and ways to market the shop. Emily noticed the change in me. "You're working yourself to death," she said one night as I stumbled into bed at 2 a.m. But then she saw the spreadsheets, the goals, the vision board I'd made. Her eyes softened. "You really want this, don't you?" "I have to do this," I said. "Not just for me, for us. For our future." 6 months later, we held the grand opening of my new shop. It was triple the size of the old one, with a bright waiting area, state-of-the-art equipment, and a small office for me. The first month's profits nearly doubled what I'd been making before. Business was booming, and I was just getting started. But Richard still wasn't impressed. At Emily's birthday dinner that summer, he smirked and said, "So you finally made the place look pretty. That doesn't mean it'll last. These little ventures always crash eventually." I didn't argue. I just smiled and poured myself another glass of wine. What Richard didn't know was that I had just signed a deal with a local luxury dealership to be their exclusive service provider. A contract worth more than my entire annual revenue the year before. For the first time, I wasn't just catching up. I was ahead. And soon, Richard would find out exactly how far ahead I'd gotten. 3 months later, Emily and I invited her parents to our house for dinner. By then, the shop was running like a well-oiled machine, and my income had more than tripled. I had hired 5 more employees, bought 2 new trucks, and was even planning to open a second location. When Richard walked into our home, I could tell he was already prepared with his usual snide remarks. But this time I was ready. Halfway through dinner, Emily handed him an envelope. "What's this?" he asked suspiciously. "Just open it," I said, trying not to grin. Inside were photos, my shop's new expansion, the signed dealership contract, and a picture of me holding the keys to a brand new truck. At the bottom was a letter of appreciation from the dealership, congratulating me for being named their business partner of the year. Richard stared at the papers in silence. Emily broke the tension with a small smile. Dad, Ethan's company is doing so well that we just paid off our house, 2 years ahead of schedule. I leaned back in my chair, finally letting myself enjoy the moment. And next month, I added, we're taking a 2-week vacation to Italy. First class. Richard's face went pale. For once, he had nothing to say. His usual smugness was gone, replaced by something I'd never seen before, respect. After dinner, as they were leaving, Richard pulled me aside. His voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it. I misjudged you, he admitted. I thought you'd hold my daughter back. Turns out, you were the best thing that ever happened to her. I didn't gloat, didn't rub it in, though every part of me wanted to. Instead, I just nodded and said, I told you I'd take care of her. Now you know I meant it. That night, when Emily and I were alone, she hugged me tight. You didn't just prove him wrong, she whispered. You proved it to yourself too. And she was right. It was never just about Richard. It was about becoming the man I knew I could be. The kind of man no one could ever call useless again.